The Xbox 360 just turned 20 years old on November 22nd, and there's no doubt in your mind that this is your favorite 7th gen console, possibly even your favorite console of all time. On Xbox 360, we saw the continuation of the Halo series, with most people's favorite, Halo 3. Gears of War burst onto the scene, and set the standard for third-person cover shooters. Both games also created an incredible online community over Xbox Live. We also saw some interesting games from Rare that people seemingly loved, like Viva Pinata. But what about the very earliest of titles that no one ever talks about? The games that either released with the console or shortly after, towards the end of 2005.
These are the games we want to focus on today. So if you have a bit of time to join us, there's plenty to talk about in this episode. So grab some snacks and let's go. Hey everyone, today we're diving into some of the games that helped define the Xbox 360 launch era. These are either games you played with friends for hours, or you were watching someone else play these games and it became your nostalgic console.
We don't own every single launch title on Xbox 360, but besides the sports titles, I feel like we have the most important ones to showcase today. However, let us know in the comments if we're missing any absolute bangers here.
So let's get into it.
Well, now that we've done 3 different intros, I think it's probably time to look at some games, don't you think?
Yeah, I'm glad that you're ending it with the mature game here, Dead or Alive.
Now you spoiled it, though. Now people are not going to watch the rest of it.
Are you going to talk about the amazing beach volleyball offshoot that they did?
Yes, that's in the next video. Although it's not technically before, it came out like 4 days after the PS3 launched, but it still should be in there. So, I want to preface the first game here by saying, first of all, don't turn off the video just because we start with this game, because we've never featured a sports game. So we do have a sports game, but it is somewhat special to me. One of the first launch titles, I think it was the first title that I played on the 360, was FIFA 06 Road to FIFA World Cup. And this was not just your regular FIFA game. This was a World Cup game, but it wasn't even a full title, really. It was just kind of like a qualification. So it's more like just stripped down version of the full game that came out a year later, or I think a couple of months after this. So they were really rushing to get this as part of the Xbox 360 console. But yeah, like I said, it was like a stripped down FIFA experience. So this was essentially just you could take your favorite team through the qualifiers and qualify for the World Cup. And I feel really bad to this day because my buddy who had the OG Xbox, I've mentioned this guy quite a few times in other videos that we've made, and he sold most of his OG Xbox games so we could buy this game. And I remember being so disappointed because it wasn't even a full game. And I played it a ton though. Like, it's not... it's an okay FIFA game. There's not much to it. Like, the graphics were much better, of course, than the previous FIFA games that I had played. And this was, on top of it, probably one of the best World Cups, too. But this was a kind of a disappointment because all you could do was just do qualifiers. And then when you finish the qualifiers, it's like, yeah, wait for the new game or the full game next year, basically. So, but it's a cool memory though, but I still feel bad for my buddy who sold all those OG Xbox games. And it wasn't what I expected it to be, but it has Ronaldinho on the front, of course. And like I said, FIFA 06 or World Cup in Germany 2006 is legendary because you probably remember Zinedine Zidane's headbutt in this World Cup. If you watch it, of course, then yeah, this was one of the best World Cups, but kind of a disappointing game. And since we also do the backwards compatibility info in our videos, this game is not backwards compatible, and that's probably fine. So we can actually do 2 stacks for these. If you want to put the non-backwards compatible on the left, maybe? Yep. And then we can just do the backwards compatible on the right, because there's going to be a few of those too. I think it's about 50-50 if I remember correctly, but I know we'll just line them up nicely, and yep, that looks great. Okay, let's move on to the next game. And I do think this was actually the second game I played. Could have been the third one, but that's okay. So this is Call of Duty 2. And of course, first-person shooter set in World War II. I played the hell out of this game when it first came out. And it was one of those weird ones where I hadn't quite gotten used to the single player experience, especially if you played this on veteran. So my brother and I, we would pass the controller around when we played on veteran. And then if one of us died, the other person would try and that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of people did that around that time. It was kind of like a weird pass the controller if you failed, and then someone else can attempt that level. I did the same thing with a buddy of mine actually in Hitman 2, Silent Assassin. We would do that on PS2. It's like the weirdest thing, but you know, that's what you do sometimes. But I think this game is actually quite good. You know, this was my second experience with Call of Duty. So you had also online multiplayer in this game, which was huge. The previous shooters, as you probably remember from Doom and other games like that, you had to pick up health. Here you regenerated health and you could take cover and yeah, regain your health. But you know, if you played Call of Duty 1, you didn't have that luxury back then where you could do stuff like that. It was a very loud case. I don't know why, but Call of Duty 2 though, it's great. Like, this is one of the kind of original World War II shooters, you know, on the 360, and a fantastic launch title, and worth playing in my opinion still today. And you know, even on veteran, it'll be challenging, but I still think this is an absolute gem on the 360, to be honest. And this one, though, is backwards compatible. So that is good news. You can play it on newer consoles as well. And, you know, you could always play it on the 360, of course. You know, I know a lot of people prefer to just play it on the original hardware. But great shooter for its time as well. And this next game here is, I wouldn't say legendary, but it's very memorable for me, at least, because it was one of those games that I have really good memories of, and especially, again, staying up late, playing this game, playing with friends, playing with my brother again. He loved the racing games, so great memories here. And that's, of course, Project Gotham Racing 3. And this is like a simulation driver more so than an arcade-style racing game. But this really showed off the graphical prowess, really, that the 360 could do, at least until something like Gears of War came out. Then this one really showcased, you know, real cities like London, New York, Tokyo, and it's amazing graphics at the time, really very crisp. And I still remember just the late nights, just doing all the races, all the tracks, and making progress, even in multiplayer as well. Didn't play a ton of multiplayer. It was mostly like the story mode or whatever it's called in the racing games. And then it really also showed off Xbox Live multiplayer, just like Call of Duty 2, and, you know, to some degree, FIFA 06 as well. And this was, of course, a great continuation of this series on Xbox 360. We had the first two on OG Xbox. And this is kind of an interesting disc as well, because it has the put this disc in first. And I think this is part of like some special edition, but this is how we bought it. So I don't know if this is incredibly special edition or what it is, but I obviously have played this even on this one, and it works like normal. So I don't know which other disc I'm supposed to put in, because it only has one. If any of you know what this is, you know, let us know in the comments, I guess. But I don't know if this is anything particular. Maybe it came with like a steering wheel or something like that. It could have been like one of those editions. So like put this in before you start driving, maybe. I don't know. But it's an interesting one, though. And I still have really fond memories of this game. I think it is a great racer. And some people don't like that simulation racing type game. They're more into the arcade style. But I think this series is worth playing, and it's sad that we only saw one more after this. And then lastly, of course, this is not a backwards compatible game, so you'll need a 360 to play Project Gotham Racing 3. And this game has always been special to me. It just drew me in immediately when I saw the title, the cover of this game, and I just knew I wanted to play this. I didn't play it on the 360 first, but that's irrelevant here, because this was one of the launch titles, of course, and that's Condemned Criminal Origins. And it really makes me happy that this game has gotten a lot more attention in the last few years, I would say. And also, you know, obviously we had Condemned 2 that came out on PS3 as well as 360 later on. But this is, you know, really the most unique one in my opinion, because, yeah, it is a first-person psychological horror game, and you're a detective investigating crime scenes. There's a serial killer that's loose, and you're trying to track him down. And you go through, you know, creepy areas, abandoned buildings, and, you know, occasionally you have to defend yourself with a pipe or whatever you can find at your disposal that you can defend yourself with, because you will come across some crazy enemies in this game. But just the atmosphere in this one is, I wouldn't say it's unlike anything I've played, but I featured this one in one of our Halloween videos, or one of our horror games on 360. And it's just like you have that isolation in a sense, like you're very much alone in this game because you've been singled out as, or I should say framed for all these murders when you had nothing to do with it, of course. And as you go through each area and you investigate more crimes, you obviously uncover more secrets and more clues to who this serial killer might be. And I think it really stood out from other horror games at the time as well. It was very unique, this first-person perspective, and a lot of focus on melee combat. And whenever you had firearms, you didn't have a lot of ammo for them. So you had to really strategize how you were to get out of that tricky situation in, you know, whatever area you were in at the time. And good news though, you know, you can actually play this on newer consoles as well. So it did get a boost of graphics and frame rate and everything. So according to a lot of people that I've talked to, this looks amazing on a Series X or an Xbox One. So I haven't actually tried it on those newer consoles, but I would love to go back and replay this on Series X. This game was kind of focused a lot on lately because it was suddenly delisted from Xbox and I think Steam as well and other platforms. So people are speculating that we're maybe going to see a remaster of some sort or maybe a remake, but who knows? It would be amazing to see something like that. I would love to see a sequel, of course, but yeah, this is a fantastic horror game and you should experience this one. And this next game here is rather interesting, I would say, because I always feel like there aren't enough games in this genre. People love playing games like this, but there just aren't enough of them, in my opinion. And that game is Gun, and a game that was obviously a launch title on the 360. It also came out on OG Xbox, I believe, but this is the superior version to play. And this is an open world action adventure Western game, basically. So before Red Dead, and in between, I should say, after Red Dead Revolver, so this game was kind of your go-to cowboy game in a sense, your go-to Wild West game. And you have kind of that sandbox freedom in this game, story missions, and then you made it feel like a really proper Western game. And the interesting fact about this one, if we open it up, I guess, too, or we can look in the front. So this is made by Neversoft, which is the Tony Hawk developer. So they didn't make a whole lot of other games outside of Tony Hawk, but they did make Gun, which is a very interesting change of pace. But, you know, it sounds like they did a really great job with this game. I've yet to fully play this one, but it's one of the games that are at the top of my list on the 360. I played games like Call of Juarez and obviously Red Dead. So I like the Western theme and the Western games. And like I said, there aren't enough of these types of games. And yeah, greatly looking forward to playing this one. And lastly, though, it is not backwards compatible. So you would have to play this one on Xbox 360.
The spine for Gun always catches my eye in the game stores. It's always funny. Gun, I'm always like, it's like one of those games where I'm like, do we have that one?
Yeah.
So, because it always catches my eye.
And then this was a game that people were really looking forward to, actually, when the 360 came out. And mostly due to the developer, I think. Everyone's favorite developer. And that is Kameo, Elements of Power. And of course, this is by Rare. And I do believe, if my research does me right here, I do think this was supposed to come out on the Nintendo 64, actually. So that's at least what I read. I'm not 100% sure if it's correct, but if anyone knows, this was a highly anticipated game, of course, on the 360. And this is an action-adventure platformer with kind of a, you could call it a twist in a sense, where you play as Kameo, and this supposed twist is you transform into different elemental creatures. And each of them have unique abilities and everything. So, you know, the platforming seems to be good in this game. Combat is pretty good as well. So this was a game that I actually only briefly played, I would say, as I was playing, you know, Call of Duty 2, FIFA World Cup, and then, of course, Project Gotham Racing. So I dabbled a little bit in this game, but I can't say that I've fully played the entire thing. But, you know, I don't know how this was received by gamers. I think that if, you know, it has a long production time, you know, people might get a little bit impatient, have bigger expectations of it since it's rare and everything. But it really did show off at least what the 360 was capable of doing in the graphics department. So it looked very good, very colorful, you know, large worlds and smooth character movements and stuff like that. So
one thing I remember about this game is, yes, people were indeed very, very excited. Lots of anticipation around this game because, as you said, you know, very famous developer on the N64 created, you know, fantastic games. And I think the disappointment with this one was that the trailers looked better than what the game actually ended up being. And the trailers were... because as you said, the trailers displayed, you know, the graphics, it displayed, you know, like this really cool game mechanic and everything. But when you actually play the game, it just didn't pull it off as well as you were hoping it would. So that's like my memories with Kameo. It was a game I did play this somewhat at launch. And I was thinking this was going to be a console seller, really, like it would sell the 360. But yeah, it was a really big disappointment.
So you played it more than me then, at least. So yeah, that's good. That's great input. And yeah, I was thinking it would be the same thing. You know, I was kind of hyped up, right? And yeah, I don't know if it really reached the heights that it could have, but that's sometimes what happens, right? But at least now, though, you know, you can still play it. Of course, this was also part of the Rare Replay collection on Xbox One. So if you own that one, you can play Kameo there, of course. And this particular edition here too, or this version, is backwards compatible. So if you had this one, you can play it on Xbox One or Series X, of course. And this game has always been part of my favorite racing series. And a lot of people think that this actually is the very best one in the series. And that's Need for Speed Most Wanted. And of course, this is like an open world street racing game, and it's very much arcade style. And this is just really about pure adrenaline, and you have rivals. And I actually played the 2012 version of this game. I don't think it's a remake, but it's kind of trying to be in the same type of game. And from what I've heard, at least, I haven't fully played this one. Like I said, I played the 2012 Need for Speed Most Wanted, which I did enjoy. But apparently the cutscenes, music, and, you know, it's very classic, like mid-2000s vibe to it. So I saw some footage of this, and yes, it's kind of funny. It's very cheesy, a little bit corny, and I don't know if they put a lot into the production of this one, but it's supposed to look like you're in a movie or something like that, and it's kind of fun. But you know, if you're into the high-speed racing games and tons of chaos and stuff like that, you know, like the Need for Speed games are great, in my opinion. I don't play that many racing games anymore, but Need for Speed Most Wanted is a must-to-have, really. And this is a great game, and also came out on OG Xbox, of course, and probably PS2 as well. But everyone seems to want this edition right here, and that's I find that very fascinating. Most Wanted, exactly.
I'm glad to hear that you like an arcade racer like this, but you're breaking my heart a little bit because Midnight Club is really, that's where it's at. That was my love for the arcade racing game.
So you're more Rockstar Racing then?
I guess so, yeah.
I mean, it's fun though, because, you know, they put a lot of that kind of stuff in Grand Theft Auto, right? So, I mean, it's kind of the Grand Theft Auto without the other stuff, just the racing. So, yeah, no, those are probably fun too. And for this one, though, for Need for Speed Most Wanted, it's not backwards compatible, so obviously you have to play it on the Xbox 360, of course. The next game is going to be very familiar to a lot of people. I think this was also very hyped. People were excited because this was a sequel to a lot of people's favorite on the N64, I believe. And, of course, that is Perfect Dark Zero. And apologies on this one in advance. This is an incredibly sealed game right now, and I'm not going to open it right now, of course, so we'll just see it for what it is. This is a futuristic shooter and action game. So obviously a first-person shooter, And a lot of people remember this as a launch day must, really, but you may have some other opinions about that. I don't know if it was living up to expectations or what it was, but
I think again, this is what I mean. I'm impressed that Rare was able to like follow through and, provide these like launch titles for the 360. But I think that people, love this game on the N64, and this is another one of those games that just fell short of the expectations. So, and I think didn't they say recently there's going to be a new one in the Perfect Dark series? But
oh, don't mention that because they canceled it.
I know.
People are sad. People are still bitter, about it. Xbox, they've received a lot of hate for that. So.
Yeah, because the trailer actually looked good for that one.
Yeah, no, I was looking forward to it. I mean, I can't say that I played too much of this game, but it was a game that people, enjoyed playing. They had multiplayer. I don't know how good the multiplayer was, but people played it at least. It was another way for Xbox to showcase more of Xbox Live, of course. And, split screen co-op as well. So you had that aspect. Obviously, most likely gotten that from Halo, right? Like the popularity that came with split screen with Halo. And I still think people have good memories of this game. It might not be the best game in the world, but it is kind of like a symbol of the 360 launch, I would say. Like everyone who sees this game are like, that's a launch title for the 360, right? It's very symbolic for that. This might be a game that you and I have to play in co-op, who knows? But I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what the multiplayer is like, but I know some of the difficulties in this game can be pretty challenging, yeah. And of course, like I said, with Kameo as well, this game is also part of the Rare Replay collection, of course, and it is also playable on Xbox One and Series X. So, still a great one to have in the collection. And when I said it's a perfectly sealed game, it has lots of stuff there, so I probably should open it someday. I don't have to. I own like a digital copy and have Rare Replay, so there's really no reason to open it right now. It's just, I think we found that cheap in some other game store. They're like, we don't care. There's like $8 for a sealed game.
Exactly.
All right. I mean, this is kind of an interesting one, I would say. And for some reason, I never got around to playing this one. But yeah, some people have said this is actually a pretty good launch title. Other people have said, like, this is a very basic, generic, easy achievement list and all that kind of stuff. But, let's check out Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game of the movie. And I always find this interesting because if you look at the OG Xbox, it came out on OG Xbox as well. That's like one of the cheapest games. And then for the longest time, this was like one of the most expensive, most difficult to find for some reason. And that's kind of how it is with a lot of these, it's just kind of the superior version in a sense. But yeah, Peter Jackson's King Kong, this is kind of like the action adventure game, first person shooter, I guess you can say. And of course, the movie tie-in to King Kong in 2005. And I actually watched this movie, the midnight release of King Kong, and it was 3 hours long. And it was like, I don't think I went to midnight releases after that, because that is like an incredibly long movie to watch at midnight. And of course, it didn't start at midnight. It started like at 12:30, 1 a.m. So then it was like, you get home at like 4:30 in the morning, and I was like, watch King Kong for 3 hours, huh? Like, that was pretty good. But I don't think the movie was bad or anything, but yeah, it was an interesting experience. A lot of people, like I said, though, like kind of praised this game because it was one of those movie tie-ins that actually was pretty decent, I think. You play as a human character in this one, and then you also play as King Kong, smashing everything like you would with King Kong. And they also used like motion capture from the film, which made the characters look a little bit more real. A lot of them tried that. And I even forgot to say that about FIFA 06 as well. It was around the time where they were trying to do more motion capture and make things look more realistic. And yeah, that's kind of what this game was trying to do as well. So for being a movie tie-in, I guess it is a pretty decent game. But for many years, people just knew this as like an expensive game and all that kind of stuff. So, I'm thrilled that we have it. And for some reason, I haven't gotten around to it yet, but I think I can blaze through this game in like 8 hours or so, maybe less. But yeah, I'm actually looking forward to trying this one out. And lastly, this is also a backwards compatible game, so that's good news, of course, as always. So if you have the physical copy, of course, which I do believe it only came out physically, then you can play it on Xbox One or Series X. And this next game here is pretty interesting because there's two versions we want to show today. And of course, this is a very famous series from id and, you know, makers of Doom and everything. And obviously the other famous series, and that's Quake 4. And this is the id and Raven, but this is Activision published. I think it says that maybe on the back somewhere. So there's two different versions of this. Yeah, there's Activision on the back. So there's two different versions of this. And I actually didn't know that. Like, we bought both of these copies many, many years ago. But I noticed that, like, when we see the other one too, like, the spine was a little bit different. And I noticed the publisher was different. Because I do think we own the other one first. But if we open this one, then there's actually two discs in here. So I don't know, it'd probably be difficult to grab the second disc here. But of course, one is the Quake 4 disc, and the other one is a bonus disc that comes with, you know, behind the scenes, some, you know, commentary and all that kind of stuff, special edition features. And then it has Quake 2 on here as well, which on the Xbox 360, of course, has a whopping 0 gamer score. So a big fat goose egg for that game. But you can still play it, of course, you know, like it's not like it's unplayable, even if it has 0 gamer score. But it's just an interesting fact to point out. And I don't know if this case is actually the right one. I think this one came in like one of those sleeves that you sometimes see at GameStop. And then I think I just tried to put it on top, but it doesn't quite sit well.
Barely makes it.
It's still a cool addition though. So if you get Quake 4 for 360, try to find the Activision one. I would recommend, you know, because you get kind of the special edition features, and then, you know, you get Quake 2, kind of like a port of Quake 2. So we can show the other one too. I mean, we can put it down. I guess I'll jump.
Actually, I want to show the spines.
Yeah, show the spines, actually. That's a good idea. So you can see it's slightly different here. The top one there, which is the Activision one, it's slightly smaller, I would say. And then the Quake 4 at the bottom, that's the Bethesda re-release. And that's going to look a little bit different, but essentially, you know, it's the same game. I don't think there's much difference, any differences to the actual gameplay here. Unless you guys can tell me if there's anything, if they remastered something or made it different, but I don't believe it is. But of course, Quake, you know, this is a first-person shooter just like Doom. And, you know, Quake 4 feels kind of like that LAN party shooter, only on consoles this time. And I think this kind of ran a little bit poorly on the 360. You would think that the 360 was pretty powerful at the time, but since this was designed really a PC shooter, and like I said, the LAN parties and stuff, I don't think it ran incredibly well on 360 at first. But obviously this is a very iconic series as well, and, you know, a great launch title to have on the 360. If you played Quake, you probably played all of them up until this game. So yeah, again, iconic series and fantastic to have on the 360 at launch. And, you know, lastly, neither of these, I should say, it's the same game, of course, but they're not backwards compatible. So you're going to have to play this on 360, of course. But it's really cool, and we wanted to show both versions here just because, you know, we just happened to come across both of them, and I picked them up, and then I saw the extra disc. I'm like, this is kind of unusual. So yeah, now we have both of them, of course. But yeah, really cool. And I love the green artwork too, of course. But I'm more of a Doom guy. I'm not as much of a Quake guy though. So yeah, that's kind of what I've always preferred. Okay, so we're coming up on the last few here. And then this one, I think probably Squirrel can even talk to this one, because I think most people at some point have probably played a game in this series. Like, I used to love this on PC. I don't know if I played any on OG Xbox or PS2. Definitely played a few on the 360, but I haven't played many since. And of course, that's Tony Hawk's American Wasteland. And this is supposed to be one of the better ones, I think. You know, I think it also came out on OG Xbox, if I remember correctly. But again, this is the preferred way to play this game. And, you know, don't have to say that this is obviously a skateboarding game and very, again, iconic series. Tony Hawk, of course, still making Tony Hawk games, I think, unlike something like Tiger Woods, where I think they stopped making Tiger Woods games at one point. But I love these games. You know, I first and foremost, not just the gameplay, but the music in these games are amazing. You know, I really love that kind of punk rock, right? Late 90s, early 2000s mostly. You know, like I said, this one really screams the mid 2000s, kind of like Need for Speed, Most Wanted, I should say. And, you know, this game, you know, you just have a fully, you know, you can explore LA. It has like BMX crossovers, you know, like I said, the punk rock tracks, graffiti covered streets, and, you know, any skate park that you can find, really. So, you know, I just feel like it's so satisfying when you get those trick combos, although I probably don't remember or know what half of them are at this point, but I just remember when you nail that trick combo, it's just so satisfying, and seeing the score on the screen and everything, and, you know, just cruising around the city, you know. And you know, apparently this game also didn't have any loading screens, so it was kind of like a whole seamless experience. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool as well. So yeah, but Tony Hawk, I think it's just, you know, I think a lot of people love the Tony Hawk games, and this one is no different, of course.
Yeah, I think this is definitely one of the most iconic Tony Hawk games. Like, even the cover of art of this one, I mean, you recognize this, you know it immediately, and it's a little bit of a slice of like the 2K time. I think that's what's cool about this, not just, you know, like you said, with the music tracks that are in this one, but also it's so funny when I see no loading here. I'm just like, I remember, I know exactly what they're saying. I mean, if you were to see this today, you go, big deal, but, you know, this was at a time when so many games, you know, it's like, you know, it's free roaming. And so many other games would do that whole like loading into the next screen, loading into the next screen. And, you know, it would be like a certain, you know, skate park. And then you'd have to, you know, go to the next skate park and it would load. But yeah, this was amazing that you could just like roam around a city and go do all these tricks and explore. And yeah, this is good slice of 2K history in video gaming.
Try to tell that to Grand Theft Auto with the loading screens. I don't think that would work in those games, but there you go. I had to bring it up. I mean, they're long loading screens,
They
but
are.
So, I mean, yeah, Tony Hawk, I mean, definitely a must-have, really, and a fantastic launch title. And unfortunately, though, this is not backwards compatible, but, you know, if you don't care about the backwards compatible stuff, you know, play it on your 360, of course. So, great game to have. Well, we have the last game here, at least, and I can't say that I played these games a ton, but I know even on OG Xbox, I think there was one of the games in this series was a launch title on the OG Xbox, and people loved it. And that game is Dead or Alive 4, of course, and Dead or Alive 3, I think, was the launch title for OG Xbox. And yeah, like I said, I haven't played too much of Dead or Alive. Always been more Street Fighter, even Tekken, Mortal Kombat. Dead or Alive, I played Dead or Alive 5, I think, recently. And I thought that was pretty good. And then, of course, you know, it goes without saying, this is a fighting game, of course. I don't know if this is as racy as the other Dead or Alive Extreme or whatever that came out a year later. But, you know, it's a good online multiplayer game as well, right? This was another one that, you know, even if you weren't like a fighting game expert, you know, you could still button mash and have fun online, or local, you know, multiplayer in a sense, play against someone with multiple controllers locally, of course, or you could fight against anyone across the world, which was pretty amazing really at the time. And, you know, it also had great single-player modes, too, of course. You know, you can unlock all these fighters like you do in all the fighting games. And, yeah, so this was a really good launch title as well, to have a fighting game alongside all these other games we've talked about today. You know, anything from skateboarding to racing to shooters. And then you had a fighting game here. So, yeah, really great. And although, like I said, in the arcades, I played more even Virtua Fighter, Tekken, Street Fighter, that kind of stuff. But just, it's always fun to pick up a fighting game from time to time and just, you know, duke it out, have a bout, and then see how far you can go. And yeah, Dead or Alive 4 is also one of those games that you should definitely get on your 360 as part of the launch title lineup. And lastly, for this one, this game is actually backwards compatible, so you can play that on newer consoles and enjoy it there as well, of course. So that was a look back at some of the Xbox 360's launch titles. Not every one of them was a masterpiece, of course, and some definitely had rough edges, but they were the games that really defined the start of a new console generation.
Consoles today only wish they could have a lineup like this to start with.
We want to thank you all for watching today. And, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, and hype it too if you want. We are pretty new to asking about the hyping, but we'll see if it helps us out. And of course, leave us comments too. We always love reading your comments and responding to them. And then this is a new type of thumb, I guess. And then, of course,
subscribe if you haven't already.
Click on the button and subscribe.
And check out these 2 videos here if you want to check out more of our Xbox 360 videos.
Thanks again for watching, and as always, keep the 360 dream alive.
Bye!